have to watch a clock. I don't even have to watch a clock. I don't even have to watch a clock.
When somebody counts the number of Fridays to summer break, you are probably chatting with a teacher, and that is exactly what I did for today, which is Bold Moves episode 169, where I spoke with Kara Green. If you're new here, I'm Mandy. I'm the host of the Bold Moves podcast, and I love sharing interviews with people who have leapt outside of their comfort zones and done things to get closer to their dreams. My goal with this podcast is to get as many people as possible to do exactly that. So I share these inspirational interviews on Mondays, and then a challenge on Fridays from Monday's guests to help you move even closer to your dreams. Today I chatted with Kara Green, who is a school teacher by day in elementary school in New York, as well as a belly dance instructor and app developer by night. So she's going after her dreams, getting creative while molding the minds of America's future. I love chatting with her, and I think you're going to find lots of insight as well as a perspective of somebody who is on the beginning of her bold move path, but still offers a great amount of insight and just a different perspective than what you usually get with people who are maybe further along in their journeys and have more battle scars to share. Anyway, without further ado, here is my episode with Kara Green. All right, welcome to the podcast. I am with Kara today. Welcome to the show, Kara.
Hi, Mandy. Welcome. Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Oh, my pleasure. So obviously you know that the show is called Bold Moves, and you wouldn't be on if you hadn't made some yourself. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your story, why you think you're a good candidate to be on this podcast, and some of the bold moves you've made?
Thank you so much. So as soon as I stop smiling and I can speak, firstly, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited. And I just want to thank you for what you are doing to support folks who are making bold moves and moves of all sizes. So why do I think I'm a good candidate? I think I'm a good candidate because in general, my way of thinking up until recently has kind of been very linear. And I've been taught, by my models, by society, by my teachers, family, to kind of like do things in a certain order, to do things as they should be, I suppose, which is to go to school, to be able to get a good job, which has worked out well for me so far, and I really have no complaints, except that I've decided to make the bold move to kind of deviate from that and to dabble with entrepreneurship. So here we are. I've decided to start an LLC, and I did that about 6 months ago. Mm-hmm. And in order to feed that, I've been working as a belly dance instructor, and I'm actually developing a couple of educational apps. And I'm working on all of that at the same time, continuing my work that my linear path has brought me to, which is I work full-time as an elementary school teacher. So kind of trying to figure a way to juggle all of that and manage all of that. But I guess stepping aside from what I've been expected to do and what I have been doing so far was my bold move, and it's been great. It tingles. It feels good.
I love that, and I can see the excitement on your face. So what grade do you teach, first of all?
I teach
the linear part of your job.
I teach third grade. I'm working in a collaborative class, so my co-teacher and I have a wonderful collaboration of students that are general education and special education students. Okay. And I'm nearing the end of my 14th year of teaching.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Thank you. I'm tired.
Third, I believe it. We're nearing summer, so that's probably exciting for you unless you're at a year-round program.
Oh, listen, after today, 7 more Fridays. I can't wait.
But who's counting down, right?
Not me. 7 more Fridays.
I have definitely been there. As I told you before we started recording, I was a middle school teacher and there were plenty of countdowns for me.
Whew.
But I actually wanted to be a third grade teacher. I think that that's like the perfect age.
Oh, they're adorable, and they make me bust a gut at least once a week. They are so funny. They are so unfiltered, and my class that I have this year actually looped with them. So I was also their second grade teacher,
Okay,
and they're quite comfortable with me.
I'm
Sometimes
sure.
I think that they think I'm like their aunt or something rather than my teacher. It's a lot of fun. We have to keep it fun.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so funny, like what you said about them being unfiltered is one of my favorite like memes is if you want to know, or not if you want to know the truth, but three things that never lie are children, drunk people, and yoga
And
pants.
oh yes, yes.
Old, were you gonna say old people?
I was going to say old people too, but
Yeah,
yes,
old
yoga
people
pants.
don't hold back either, really.
Oh my goodness. The other day in class, some sound came out of somewhere during a test.
Uh-oh.
And I looked and tried to figure out where the whether the sound was from like a person or a piece of furniture or what.
Yeah.
And another child noticed my face like trying to search for this sound. So during the test she looks at me and goes, "What was that?" So I started laughing, but I was trying not to disturb them taking the test. And then she says, "Was that you?" And she like asked her teacher if I made this sound, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is too funny." But like we need those moments to break up like the
Oh,
seriousness
yes.
that just kind of
Absolutely.
weighs everything down in the classroom.
Yes. I feel like there were times as a middle school teacher where it was the troublemaker that had done something wrong or said something really inappropriate, but at the same
Hmm.
time, whatever they said was also hilarious. So I had to like not like, okay, the thing that's keeping me from wanting to punch you in the face right now is the fact
Yes,
that you're doing something hilarious, but it's also really hard to discipline you because I'm cracking up.
yes, yes. Try to keep it together. Oh my
Yes.
gosh, but you
Yes.
have to let it go sometimes.
Yes, there was one time that I had taught math mostly, and a kid was up at the chalkboard, and we had a legit chalkboard. It wasn't a whiteboard.
Whoa.
And he turned around, and this is obviously many years ago, but he had put white chalk all around his lips and turned around and started doing Tyrone Bigham's impersonations. And I
No,
was just
no,
like, no, you can't do this. I
no, no.
can't.
I would have paid currency to see that. Like that is so funny.
I was just like, no, it's inappropriate. Trying to keep a straight face. It was not easy, but that I remember it like a decade later, so it was.
That's classic.
All
That is
right.
classic.
So moving away from the linear part to the bolder moves you've made,
Ah.
I'm curious about your LLC because you mentioned belly dance instruction, which is, I love it, a completely different direction, as well as a couple of educational apps. Is your LLC all of those, or are you teaching the belly dance to fund the apps, or how is all of that working? And just tell me a little bit about how you got into those things and what you're doing.
Thank you for asking. Yet another bold move is I don't have a clear plan for that, but
Okay.
I knew I wanted to keep my funds separate and to protect what I've worked so hard for, aka struggled for. So
Sure.
the LLC is really just my interest that hopefully will be income producing outside of teaching. So
Okay.
it started off really to kind of cover the income I hope to make from creating the educational apps. And that was really
Okay.
something that I've wanted to do for a while and hesitated really because I was afraid to take the chance. I was afraid to try it. I was afraid to um, mess up. I was afraid to be
Sure.
successful. I was kind of afraid to do all of those things. And then something told me to just be afraid and do it anyway.
Yes.
And so that made me very nervous. Had a little stomach ache getting started with that. But so the app honestly was my first bold move and kind of working on that. So I actually have a friend who is 35 or 36 and has retired. because he sold his app business. And so he has a mentoring program for people who are interested in starting an app business. And I went ahead and connected with that person and went through a series of kind of like workshops that he has, like webinars on learning to create um, learning to create apps and have a business from that. So I said, you know what? I have no idea what I'm doing. Let me go for it. And that
At
was
that point,
something.
did you have the ideas for the app or apps you wanted, or were you just like, this guy's got it good. He retired in his mid 30s. Apps are the future. Let's do it, and I'll figure it out later.
Good question. I did have the idea for the app, and it's so funny how as much as I'm used to doing things step by step and the way things are supposed to be, and in a linear fashion, like we said, creating the apps that I'm working on was not linear at all. I had an
Yeah,
idea for an app that was it's based on a personal need that I have, and that's kind of what started it. I decided that I don't know enough about women's history. I decided I
okay,
don't know enough about Black history. I don't know enough about Caribbean histories. These are all ways that I identify myself, and I'm way more comfortable with like knowing information about the Kardashians and like pop culture and things
sure,
that are cool and they're fun, but they're not as I guess uh, or what I don't see as to be as important as what I just
sure,
mentioned. So I want to create an app that will like send me facts about these identifiers that I've mentioned
okay,
for myself to like feed me the information I think I need to know, because I'm too lazy to like sit there and like read all these history books or
sure,
like to read news articles. But I thought, how cool would that be if anyone who wanted to learn more about their identifiers could get more information about themselves? And it could be ethnicity, nationality, other parts of your culture. It could be
sure,
whatever it is, gender, identification, anything. So I wanted to create this app that kind of like feeds your identity. And that was something I dreamed about for a while. But in the process of learning about creating apps, my mentor suggested starting with a simpler app. So I said, kids have trouble with time management. How could I help children to manage their time
if
doing
by
their
kids
chores?
you
And
mean everyone, because
I like we both raise our hands. Really like my students and that age group.
sure,
But if adults want to use it, hopefully it's something that appeals to them too. So that's like the app that would be simpler to create, but it's
right,
something that's also hopefully is user friendly. And so that's what I'm more focused on right now. So I'm kind of like doing the specs and coming up with the details for that. Have not touched the other app I talked about, which started it all. So again, like that's me kind of going out of order, which I'm
sure,
embracing because it
yeah,
is so different from what I'm used to. Where as a teacher, I kind of have to look at the end and then go backwards and say, okay, step by step, what do I need to do? What do I want my students to do? So it's fun to be creative in that sense and to be so different and to have this like moonlight life that is so different from what I do 8 to 3:30, and to kind of feed that creativity that I'm craving. It's being a teacher is creative, as you know, but
yeah,
it's a different kind of creativity. So um to answer your question, I do have ideas for the apps, and then it's funny because as I'm coming up with these two, other things are kind of
yeah.
tickling my brain and saying, make me too. So I hope that I do get focused enough and disciplined enough to, come to complete the plans and to hire someone to make them. I will have to hire a developer because I have no clue what I'm doing. But I think that's part of the process and part of being bold, as you said, and as you're encouraging, because I'm the type of person who I feel as though I have to have the answers, especially as an
Right.
educator. And so, another thing I've had to learn about the process of being bold is that you don't have to have the answers. And it's great to have a team, it's great to ask for help.
Right, absolutely. Just being resourceful and knowing how to be resourceful is often more valuable than knowing the answer, I think.
Oh my gosh, yes, you are 1,000% right. If there ever was such a thing, and I love it. I totally I'm into it. Like all of these things are just kind of like jumping into my energy and jumping into my headspace, and it feels amazing. And
Yeah,
in turn, it's helping me to kind of be a more responsive teacher too. So kind of flexing these other muscles outside of teaching is, feeding into what I'm doing in the classroom also. So I'm really
Sure.
excited, and I really am excited to hear more about what you've done in your journey too. So um, I hope it's okay if I have questions too, but I kind of want to be like, and you, Mandy?
It
But
is kind of strange to just like answer questions and not really ask them back, but
it is for anything you say. I'm happy to answer more questions if you have more.
I definitely do. So, one thing is, I want to compliment you before I ask you any more questions on how amazingly self aware it is that you realize that it wasn't just fear of failure or looking stupid or not knowing that held you back,
Mhm.
but you also said, well, I was also afraid to be successful. And
Mhm.
I think so many people don't even realize that, and that holds them back for a really long time. And
Mhm.
then
Mhm.
after that, the flexibility to be like, okay, I'm not making, my dream app first, but
Mhm.
building the skills with the first app and then moving on to the next one, I think is a really great plan. And from everything that I hear, you'll be a lot more successful if you focus on one thing at a time and kind of let yourself progress then, because I definitely identify with what you're saying, and then all these other ideas come in, and at one time I think I'm working on 19 different projects and getting nowhere on any of them because
Right.
you're like, and this is exciting and I want to do this, and then like 2 days later, oh my gosh, this is an idea. It's like, okay, write them down, do them after you finish
Yes.
something else.
Yes. Yes. And that actually, I'm gonna stick a pin in what you just said, because that reminds me of one of the books I wanted to mention
Okay.
when we get to the book discussion too.
Okay.
Um, I do have a note that I wanted to share with anyone who's listening about what you just said. Also, um, you asked about the LLC a moment ago, and it was interesting how that came about. As I said, the LLC was something I started because I wanted to keep, my finances with the relating to the app separate from what I do with teaching.
Right.
And the gentleman who's been preparing my taxes has been such a mentor for me in terms of encouraging folks to start a small business. And he was kind of like, what's your business going to be? Okay, great, it's going to be educationally focused, you're going to have this app. And I'm like, yeah, like I'm really excited about the app. And he kept checking in with me and saying, all right, how's it going? And I'm like, well, I saw this whole Netflix series, so I'm doing pretty good. And he's like, what's up with your app? And he was checking in with me and like being firm and being encouraging and like really like pushing me and helping me to identify the things that were making me afraid, as I mentioned. So, he was like, he basically just broke it down one day and said, hurry up so you can fail.
Yeah.
And I am like, that struck a part of me that's like, I want to be the best I can. I want to be like, get a score of like 90 and above. Like, I want to be high achieving. I want to be, that
Right.
honor student. I want to be in that, special program. I like that.
Sure.
The high achieving part of me was like, oh,
You
what?
want me to do what?
Yeah. What you say, Willis? What you talk about, Willis? And I was like, it struck me and it like brought me to a screeching halt, but then widened my perspective because I knew exactly what he was saying, but like I needed to like internalize it
Yeah.
because but he was, hurry up because you're going to feel something and you're going to learn from it.
Right.
And it just like, I guess I almost needed to be ready to hear that. I think I
Yeah.
wouldn't have been ready to hear that if I were, 22, even 27. I think I like needed to be 34 years old and hear him say that.
Yeah.
Um, and I think I was really ready to be like, you're so right. I have to go for it. So it was then like, I think within a month, I like had all my paperwork done and was like filing my LLC. And he was like, great. Now, like, you can just be in this moment,
Yeah.
work on this, focus on this, as you just said, Mandy, and, go for it. So I was like full speed ahead, like developing this app. And then a funny thing happened. I was at my physical therapist's office. I'll make a long story short. My physical therapist and I discussed movement and dancing. He does dance. I said, oh, I do dance too. I do belly dance, and I've always wanted to teach it. He says, oh, I have a space that you can rent from me to teach belly dance. And now I'm a year into teaching belly dance lessons as like a belly dance fitness class.
Love
And
it.
so that kind of, I'll say, distracted me from developing my app. So like my app plans kind of got dust on them. Meanwhile, I'm like full speed ahead, teaching belly dance classes in 2 places, 3 days a week, once on weekends, now once a week. And it dawned on me. I'm like, oh snap, what happened to my app?
Where's your
So
tax guy to get on your case about it?
he did get on my case about it. He says, I'm happy for you to do this. What's up with the app? And tax season, I filed my tax, and he's like, all right, like, you got to get back on the ball. And he talked to me like a loving relative who
I
is
love
focused
it.
on my
Tough
financial
love.
plan. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, which I need because I'm a tough cookie. So um, I'm back focused on the app, and I had to take a step back. Um, I guess hopefully this is a helpful tidbit for anybody who wants to develop an app. But I was like, yes, hire somebody. And then I was like, to do what? And I had to take a step back and now get more information from potential users. So I
Yeah.
kind of refreshed the survey that I created and sent it to family and friends who have kids and said, all right, what is like something that is doable and usable for you? And that's helping me to fine tune the plans that I have so that when I'm ready to interview these developers, I can specify what exactly it is that I want because I want it to be an app that folks can use.
Yeah.
So I'm really like literally doing these two things, and it uh, I'm getting caught on exactly what you just said. That you're kind of like excited to do this and this and this and this and this, and I'm like looking at your pathway where you're like, well, you just said that happened with you, and I'm like, yeah, now I can say me too. Like that is
Yeah.
exactly what's going on where I'm doing this and that, and I'm so excited about it, and it's pulling my attention here and there. And you're right, like multitasking really is kind of not a real thing because
Right.
right, like um, you have a finite amount of attention, and
Mhm.
if you want to do one thing really well, you really do have to focus on it. Because
Yeah.
if you divide your attention, you're giving 50% to this, 50% to that. So, even more so when you break it down into more things that you're trying to do. So, um, that awareness, as you said, is
Yeah.
priceless for me to like literally be like, what did I just even write? I was trying to do two things at once, or like, what was
Yeah.
that belly dance move I just did? I was thinking about my app. So kind of like arriving at that moment where you have to catch yourself and say, wait, this is not valuable right now, I need to really focus, is it's priceless, it really is. And kind of
Yeah.
stumbling or falling or failing in that way is the only way I can learn. I'm
Sure.
hard-headed, Mandy. I need to learn by falling down and
Oh
busting
man.
my butt.
I was gonna say, as much as I know it, it's still hard. Like I keep telling myself, he who chases two rabbits catches zero. But
Ah,
it's still hard for me to be like on any given day, like, okay, I'm going to finish this and I'm not doing anything else until I finish this. I'm like, well, I'm gonna work on this for an hour, and I'm working this for an hour, and I'm working this for an hour. So
I'm
I
into it.
definitely identify with that for sure. I was
Hmm.
wondering, Mike, you answered my question. My next question was going to be how belly dancing became part of the side hustles you have going on. So is that entirely passion? Is that passion and also funding the app, or combination of the two?
That's a good question. So yes, the belly dance kind of fell into my lap when a space became available, and I took advantage of the chance to rent a space from him because um, I am the type to, I guess my default move is to turn down opportunities
Okay.
because I'm shy, because I'm, afraid of whatever it is I'm afraid of. So I said, you know what? This fell into my lap. It must be meant to be. I'm going to take advantage of that. And then
Okay.
I was teaching classes in that space off and on. And then a friend who manages a gym was like, we need new classes. Will you teach belly dance here?
Yeah.
So July makes a year that I will be teaching classes at the gym. And That's been loads of fun because I've been meeting folks who want to do belly dance for different reasons. Oh,
Sure.
one woman wants to do belly dance for her birthday. She wants to do a birthday class for her friends, and it opens up to other opportunities. So the belly dance classes and teaching isn't really funding the app because, for what it's worth, I have set aside some play money to kind of potentially lose
Yeah.
investing in my app business. So it's not really funding the app, but it does put gas in the tank, so I'll take it. So the app interest, I kind of have money set aside to work on that because I do
Okay.
have to pay someone to hire them to develop it and so on and so forth. So the belly dance is something I would probably do anyway because it's the only way I like to keep fit where I don't even notice I'm working out.
Okay.
Um, and it's fun to share that with other people. So it's kind of like a peripheral benefit that I do get paid for it. But for first and foremost, I do like it and it's fun and
Yeah.
it's fun to do with other people.
Absolutely, I can see that for sure. All right,
Hmm.
so you mentioned that your default is to say no to opportunities and that you're kind of shy and normally try to take a linear path. And the answer to this question could be related to any of those things or it doesn't have to be. But I'm curious
Okay.
about the scariest thing you've ever done, what that is.
The scariest thing I've ever done, um, with relation to the business or just overall.
Overall
Okay,
in
get ready for
life.
this, Mandy. This
All
is the
right, I'm
scariest thing I've
ready.
ever done. Okay. Um, the scariest. Um, Scary. Okay. Okay. The scariest thing I've ever done was, I want to say 3 summers ago.
Okay,
I have always wanted to take acting classes.
okay,
So this is before teaching belly dances, before making the app. I just decided happiness is underrated.
okay.
I've decided people don't give it enough credit, and it's really important to seek happiness. And one of my personal goals is to seek sustainable happiness. And I said, you know what? Acting is fun for me. I love it. I want to take an acting class just because.
Yeah.
Which brings me to another book recommendation I have. But anyhow, I digress. I sound like one of the Golden Girls. I digress. So, I took an acting class just because I wanted to. And I don't plan to be like in an Avengers sequel or anything like that, but I just wanted to take this class. I've always wanted to, and this particular summer lined up to allow me to take an acting intensive. It was basically acting summer camp for adults, and it
Awesome.
was one of the best things I've ever done for myself because I just wanted to. So
Yeah.
during the course of the class, we had different, I guess, kind of branches of acting that we were studying. We had voice acting, we were doing camera acting, and we were doing technique study. And in the technique class, the instructor asked us to kind of tell her the story of the scariest role that we would be the most uncomfortable to play. And I decided that I would be the most uncomfortable with playing a character that was like purely evil, for the sake of being evil, like some kind of sociopath, that sort of thing,
Yeah.
um, because it's so different from who I am. Uh, and I'm a happy, like light person with a very
Yeah.
easy sense of humor. So that was like it was like the exact opposite. And I said that would really intimidate me. So, but I thought I could do it and go there and kind of access that darkness, I suppose, that maybe it might be in all of us, who knows. And so she made me paint this scenario where I would basically have to act out this role in front of my classmates. And we all had to take turns, being this person who we decided would be difficult for us. And it was different for each of us. Some
Yeah.
person said, like, they would never want to be someone who was like, losing a relative, or they would never want to be someone who was sexually expressive in public. So whatever it was that was your fear, you had to basically do it in that space. And
Wow.
it was a really safe, uh, open, non-judgmental space for us. And we all took our turn, being this character that made us super uncomfortable. And I was basically a sociopath who was like in this scene had I have to say in this scene like out loud so everyone knows who's listening to your podcast. I didn't like carefree like yeah I killed my boyfriend, but in this scene I murdered my boyfriend, and I was like this like ruthless killer who was like losing my mind in front of my acting classmates. And there's this classmate I had who was like the 6 foot plus like huge guy who's like big and strong, and he had the look of like deep fear in his eyes when I was doing this scene, because I was like losing it. I'm like cursing, screaming, like drooling,
Yeah.
everything.
Wow.
And it was scary because I never saw myself doing that. It was scary
Yeah.
because it was so different from anything I'd done. And it was scary because there was no part of me that was like, oh, I'm just kidding. Like I was
Yeah.
really into it. I was really committed to the moment. And I really was that person who murdered her boyfriend in self-defense but wasn't sorry about it.
Yeah.
And so that was scary because I had to go somewhere I'd never gone before within myself and by myself. So
Yeah.
I would say that was the scariest thing I'd ever done.
Okay. And it sounds like your classmate maybe had some scary ex-girlfriends in his past.
He's like, that could have been me in pieces. But yeah, it scared them too. So it was kind of cool. But as I said, I wasn't sorry about it. As I said, there was no part of me that was like, now I'm back to Kara, just kidding. I
Yeah.
really meant it. Like I really was that person who did this awful thing. Um, and that was scary to kind of go there and then to take a moment to come out of there and be back to myself and be like, look guys, it's me, like wiping all the makeup off and everything like that. But even though I'd done that scary thing, I like grew 30 feet taller because
Yeah.
it was scary. I'd done it, I'd survived, and I was like, whoa, look what I can do if I wanted to.
That's awesome. So, both in
Right.
that experience as well as when you decided to finally take the nonlinear leap to do the app business and the belly dance instruction, when you were talking about that, you used one of my favorite phrases or a derivative of it, which is to feel the fear and do it anyway,
Oh,
and
sure.
still do it scared. I'm wondering what advice you have for anyone watching or listening on how to push past that fear or still do whatever it is they're afraid to do.
Um, hmm. I think that's something that's helped me to move forward is to ask myself, what's the worst thing that could happen?
Yeah.
And to decide to accept it. And, I if it's not clear already, I'm a type A person. I like
Yeah.
lists, I like notes, I like details, I like a plan.
Right.
And deviating from that can be scary. Um, and so I've had to ask myself, what's the worst that could happen? Um, and to be honest and to say, but it's okay. So in this
Right.
sense, I could say, in terms of belly dancing instruction, what's the worst that could happen? That I give a class that nobody likes, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Because in this sense, I could go somewhere where nobody knows me and try again and see if they like it. And,
Right.
try to have an answer for these worst case scenarios as it were. Or with the app, I could say, what if I spend all this money and don't make any? I have to say I've accepted it, which is why I put, some play money aside, to say I could lose this money and I have to accept that.
Right.
Um, and so feeling those fears and acknowledging those fears and saying, I will be okay if this worst case scenario happens is something that's propelled me forward and has given me confidence to try it and to be okay with losing these things, or to be okay with these failures coming to be.
Sure.
So that would be my word of advice, to literally get ready to fail, and also to say you probably will learn from it, and then to try again because the next time will be even better. I mean, and that's to say it, that I have failed with belly dance. Like I have given classes and been like, what the hell was that? Like, those moves were not sweet. Like, you
Yeah,
weren't even sure of yourself. Like, what? Like, you won't see those women again. Like, they don't feel like that was a good class. Like, oh God, like, just give up. And then
yeah,
I've had to be like, you know what? Come back next Tuesday, pick a new song, and just move on. And
yeah,
that's exactly what I've done. And some of them did come back, and most of them didn't. And I had to say, you know what? That's okay. Just kill it today. And, acknowledge what didn't go well that time you felt terrible, and just like move on, and just try again. And I think that should be the way that we think, even if it is kind of your main gig. As I did
yeah,
mention, belly dance is something I'm doing kind of on the side. And, I'm happy to get paid for it. And I'm happy to, offer, belly dance instruction or lessons to anyone who thinks it's fun for any reason. But, I think it's fun. And I hope other people do too. And, um, you know, that's something that I do that's not kind of my livelihood. Um,
right,
so I think that should be the case, even if it is your livelihood. And say belly dance was my livelihood. That's the attitude I would have, where I'd say, this kind of sucked today. What could I do the next time so it doesn't suck as much? I could
right.
go to a strange place where those people were not in class at all, put on my flashy smile, and try to bring new people in, or whatever the case is. If it were the case with the app and I lost all my money, there's a support system, whether it's your own support system or your loved ones, who might say, hey, I'll spot you so you could try this again, and you could borrow money from me, or whatever the case is. I feel like there's a way to pick yourself up after you've fallen or after you've failed, where you can take the lessons you've learned and try again.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with that. I'm
Hmm.
curious because you're doing sort of a few different things. They all are in the space of sharing knowledge and education, but
Hmm.
um, with all those in mind, and if you don't have an answer yet, or if it's something that for a lot of people changes, that's cool too. But I'm
Hmm.
curious if you know your purpose, and if so, what it is.
That's an excellent question.
Thank you.
It's almost like you it's almost like you knew I was thinking about that. So, like, how intuitive of you. um do I know my purpose? um I think I have an idea, but I'm not sure of it.
Sure.
I think my purpose is to show people what they can do, um because I'm seeing what I can do with these different things I can try.
Yeah.
I'm seeing that I can teach belly dance, and like see people feel confident, and see people feel sexy with the moves that they're doing, and to do something that they've never tried, and to ask their body to speak a different language that they don't know yet.
Yeah.
And hopefully with the apps that I will create, it will show people that they can manage their time, and it will show people that they can learn more about themselves and the way that they identify, um, themselves to other people, or even to themselves. And as a teacher, hopefully I can show children that you can solve that math problem, you can write that sentence, you can
Sure.
create this story. So even though that's something that I have as a goal, whether it's with belly dance or with the apps or as a teacher, um, I might not know how I'm going to get to that goal and show this to these
Sure.
people, but I totally want to figure it out on the way. Even if I have an idea and I'm winging it the rest of the way, the process is a lot of fun.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of people say is that the falling in love with the journey is the most important part because otherwise not every day is going to be very fantastic when you have to do things that are not, in your zone of creativity or where your strengths are or interests are. So that's awesome. So we've talked a little bit
Sure.
a couple
That's
times
an excellent
about
point.
books. You've brought it up. So that's because I told you in advance that you're going to have to answer this question. But I'm wondering what books you've thought of and or previously thought of that you'd like to recommend to our listeners or viewers.
Ooh, I have three.
Awesome.
How many can I share?
As many as you want.
Okay. All right. So I'll share three, in the order that I've enjoyed them. The first one is, um, what is happening to me? The first one is by Elizabeth Gilbert.
Okay.
It's called Oh my gosh, it's not Eat, Pray, Love. Why am I having this brain fart right this moment?
Oh no.
It's called Big
Big
Magic.
Magic?
Yes. Okay, so Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert was an easy, fun, and inspirational read. For anyone who hasn't read it yet, I think the central message is to um, do things because it feeds you.
Okay.
And that's what I took away from it. There was a particular moment in the story. I hope this isn't a spoiler, but there was a particular moment um, in the book where there was a woman who, I want to say she was in her early 40s, who decided she was going to learn to ice skate. And
Okay.
her friends and family were kind of like, "What? You think you're going to the Olympics now, or what? Like, you're going to be an ice skater and go to the rink at 5 in the morning and this and that?" And she was kind of like, "I don't need to do any of those things. I want to take ice skating lessons because I want to." And that was so powerful because, whether somebody kind of wondered um, about how to do something or why they should do something, reading it from somewhere else or hearing someone else says it kind of gives you a different degree of permission to do just that.
Yeah.
So hearing someone articulate it kind of means like, yeah, 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 I've always wondered about that thing. Someone else said it pumps me up and gives me confidence to want to do it. So that was part of my uh, push to do these things that I'm interested in, like
Yeah.
kind of for the hell of it. And doing something for the hell of it is totally okay. So
Yeah.
that was a moment that I took from Big Magic that I really love. I highly recommend it. It's a great read for the beach. Yeah.
Awesome.
Another recommendation I have is The Subtle Art of Not Giving Up. FUCK. I don't want to curse for those underage listeners. Um, but read the book though with plenty of curse words. And forgive
Yeah,
me, I
it's not
don't.
a good audio book for like parents who are driving their kids to school.
Oh, thumbs down, no. But for the teacher who's driving for 2 hours to work, it's a wonderful audiobook. And that's how I enjoyed it, to be honest. Paperback books are hard for me, but audiobooks are my favorite at the moment. And The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F, I'll say, really was another book kind of in the path of like doing things for the hell of it. It had a message of prioritizing what you care about so that you can care wholeheartedly and to be deliberate about how you kind of expend your energy. Um, and if you give an F about, you know, your, say, your significant other and you're focused on that significant other, it means that you can't worry as much about trivial things like, I don't know, junk mail that you get, and don't sweat those things, and don't sweat this other thing that's not as important as whatever it is that you're giving an F about.
Sure.
Fill in the blank with whatever it is that you're prioritizing. So it's interesting because we all kind of know these things, prioritize your interests, prioritize your energies, but reading text like this really helps you to reinforce those things and to give you
Sure.
language that you can kind of play over in your mind that keeps you going in that direction and keeps you focused on whatever it is you're giving an F about. So um, I like the idea of reinforcing that and prioritizing and just kind of being ready to say no to certain things because it's something you don't give an F about at this point in
Right.
time.
When that
Um,
changes, but yeah.
sure, sure. And the third text, kind of on the same vein, is it's called The One Thing, and it's the counterintuitive approach to um, uh, being productive. I want to say is like the subtitle, or maybe that's about the subtle art. Please don't quote me on that. But the point is, the text is called The One Thing, and I don't remember the author, but it's an easy enough book to find if someone's looking for it.
It'll be in the show notes, we'll make sure.
Perfect. The One Thing is the one I'm finishing right now, and it's not a humorous text. The subtle art was a lot of fun to listen to. The One Thing is something you definitely want to make mental notes or even actual pen and paper or in your cell phone notes as you're listening to or reading it. It definitely gives you kind of a plan that you can use in so many different ways to focus your energies. And the one thing, it's almost as if you quoted from it, Mandy, when you were saying that, you can be so much more productive if you literally focus on one thing at a time. And, kind of, this falsehood of multitasking that we've been fed, in our society, and to say, we can do it all, we can do it all, but we should kind of do it one at a time.
Right.
And for someone like me, who, as I mentioned, I'm like type A, I'm like, do it all, check, 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 to-do list,
Right.
overachiever. Like, I look up and I'm like, how come my apartment's a mess? How come my fridge is empty? Because I don't have to do all of it. I need to focus on one thing at a time.
Right.
So that you can do each thing well and maximize, the energy you put into it. So the one thing has been kind of like a more of a directive that I can listen to, and just
Okay.
kind of reinforces, um, what we could do to be more productive. So I'm finishing it, and it's been really helpful. And it's great. I love audiobooks too, because it literally feeds your mind as you are thinking of words that you can kind of have almost as a mantra, like what I should be
Yeah.
doing, one thing. And it sounds so simple. To get so much more done, I should do one thing, and it's something you can kind of just keep in the front of the back of your mind as you're
Yeah.
functioning, day to day. So I really enjoy those texts. Big Magic, The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F, and The One Thing. Highly recommend all three.
Awesome. Thank you for those recommendations.
Sure.
Now, obviously, it kind of has been peppered in our conversation, and you've shared, about your story, and through that, different lessons you've learned and advice has come up. But I'm wondering if there's any other advice or lessons you wish you would have learned, or one thing that you wish everyone learned in third grade, or just anything that you could valuable advice pass on to our listeners or viewers that you'd like to share.
I would say, aside from what you said, so classic, feel the fear and do it anyway. Um, First of all, I echo that. If I could give a piece of advice, I would say, I mean, in not so many words, just do it. And
Yeah,
and then if you fail and fall, do it again, or do something else, but do it. Just keep doing. And
yeah,
you know, I say that, to my younger self, because I'm a planner. Like, I like, as I said, I like lists and ideas and plans, but the plans never came into action until recently.
right.
And it's not until recently that I'm doing something about those plans. So, if I could have advised my younger self, or anyone younger than me who's kind of like, I'm thinking, think and do, and make the
Yeah,
action part of um, your movement.
I love that. So
Hmm.
I'm curious because I believe your Instagram is private. So I don't know what you are like. If people want to find you, what would you allow to be found? How do people find you online if they want to keep track of your movement, as you mentioned?
I will make my Instagram not private. I would love to
Oh,
connect with more
another
people.
bold
Yeah,
move.
that is bold. Oh my gosh. I hope that like nice people find me and not just creeps that I've been trying to keep away from.
You can always block
Yeah,
the creeps.
yeah. Oh, there are scary people on Instagram, but I'm really happy to connect with new people I haven't met yet.
Okay.
You are awesome, and I love talking with you. So
Oh, thank
if
you.
there are more people like you who want to find me, bring them on. I'm excited. So I will make my Instagram, I guess, public, and my IG name is Karamia 707. I think that's it.
Again, we'll make sure that's correct in the show notes too, in case anyone's listening in.
Okay, thank
Double
you.
check. Yeah.
And I appreciate that. I also have an email address that I could share if you want.
Okay. Sure, if
Um,
you're up
sure.
for it.
My email address that I use for belly dancing purposes is karimadances@hotmail.com. And that is my belly dance email. I can also be reached at karamia707 at hotmail.com. I do check my email, and I love talking as much as I love writing. So those are great ways to reach out. And I look forward to connecting with anybody who might be kind of like, hey, Kara said something that I really connect with, and I love
Yeah.
to ask more questions. Like, I would love to, connect and, you know, uh, hopefully offer advice or even get advice
Yeah.
if there's anybody who wants to reach out. So I look forward to that.
That's awesome. I appreciate your openness and I hope that people take advantage of that and do connect.
Thank you. Me
Yeah.
too.
So when I asked you about advice and lessons, it was perfect because you brought up your younger self and what you would say to your younger self. But I'm curious, thinking about that younger self, this is my favorite question to ask, specifically 8-year-old Kara, which is funny because you teach 8-year-olds. But if 8-year-old
Aw.
Kara could look into a crystal ball and see where you are now, 34-year-old Kara, everything in between, as well as what you could see in the foreseeable future. Like you said, you have 7 Fridays until summer break, and maybe you have plans for summer break. What you kind of have a little bit of idea of what's going on a
Hmm.
scale of 1 to 11, how excited would little Kara be to see where you are now?
Ooh, I love that question. It's powerful.
Thank you.
Um, I just thought of another piece of advice. Can I say it now,
Sure, of course.
or should I? Okay. So the other piece of advice, something that has been priceless to me, is to spend time alone.
Oh, yes. I'm an introvert, so I'm like, yes, girl, preach.
Yes, and I preach right back. You're preaching, I'm preaching back. I think time alone and solitude is priceless because when you're alone with nothing but your own truth, it helps you to answer a lot of questions about what you want and what you would like and what
Sure.
you should do. Um, Especially when at the end of the day, once, I mean, to throw another cliche, once all is said and done, you have to live with your decisions and your
Right.
actions. So solitude, I feel like, is, I'm just closing my eyes, it's so deep. Solitude is one of the favorite things I've given to myself. I live alone now, so, and I have a long commute. So those are times that are really precious where I can just literally be alone with my truth and be like, what do you want, Kara? And I can say, well, Kara, I would like to do X, Y, and Z. And I have no one to answer to but myself. And
Yeah.
it's delicious. So that's another piece of advice. So to answer your question about little Kara, oh, she's cute. She was missing teeth. I think she would be excited to try new things. I think she would be excited to be at a point where she's um, grown from being shy and keeping herself from doing things to being shy and like taking baby steps toward the new things she's curious about. Um, I
I
would
love
tell
that.
little Kara to um, be more assertive and stand up for herself and to be honest about her feelings and not try to say things that make situations easier just for the sake of being non-confrontational and to
Yeah.
say to someone, no, that's not what I wanted, or no, you hurt my feelings, please don't do that. And I say this because this is actually what I say to my students, like
Yeah.
when they apologize and when they get an apology, they just say, that's okay. I'm like, well, was it okay that she pushed you? You need to say, please be careful with my body. And I'm like, that's what I would have liked to feel the confidence to say when I was younger. So I do tell them that, or to say, go ahead and say to yourself, say for yourself, you know, can I please have that, rather than the teacher saying it for you.
Yeah.
You have a voice, be proud and use it. So that's something I would say to little Kara that I say to my young students now. And it's not to say that my mom didn't teach those things to me, but I think I had to kind of live to appreciate those lessons even more and to really
Sure.
internalize them. So, Mom, kudos to you. I think you did an awesome job, and I love her to bits. It's Mother's Day Sunday. Ow. Um, and I would say that to anyone who kind of like knows these lessons, to use them.
Yeah.
So I would say that to little Kara. You know what to do, so go for it, girl.
I love that. So from 1 to 11, where's your
Oh
rate?
yes, we're 11 being like, oh my God, this is perfectly amazing. I
Yes.
think she would be at like a 7, 8. And I say 7, 8, I've dropped down from the 11, right, which is the ultimate, because the 7, 8 is looking forward to the 11, which is actualizing all the full potential. So there's
All
still a
right.
lot of plans in the works, and I think she'd be excited about what's to come. So what's to come is like at the 11. We're at like a 7, 8 now. I think that's a good number.
Yeah, that's such a type A answer, but I can
Yep, I think so too.
but it
Hmm.
works and it's honest. So.
Yes, you get it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing everything that you do and your self-awareness and just the cool things. I think that even just being on this podcast is working toward your purpose, because hopefully other people who are listening will think, oh, I could, start something I've been wanting to start too, which is kind of the whole purpose of the podcast. So I appreciate you
Yeah.
participating and being part of it.
Oh, thank you. And thank you times a million for creating this space for this kind of conversation and for this kind of energy to kind of swirl around and be shared by other people. Thank you for that.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine for sure.
Between the time of recording this episode and recording the intros and when it airs, Kara already encountered too many weirdos on Instagram to keep her profile public. But if you request her and let her know that you found her through the Bold Moves podcast, she says she is opening to connecting with amazing like-minded individuals like us. So feel free to send her a request, but don't be thrown off if you see that her profile is not public like she said she would make it. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed our chat. It was so much fun. I hope that you subscribe and share this with friends, and make sure that you stay tuned for Friday because she has a challenge for us. And while you're subscribing, since you'll be in iTunes or wherever anyway, I'd love it if you left a review sharing how much you love the show. That will help iTunes suggest it to other people so they know that we are doing cool things over here, and to help me reach my goal of inspiring as many people as possible to go after their dreams. So the more people that hear the podcast, the more people whose lives my guests and I can potentially impact. I would absolutely love that. All right, stay tuned for this Friday for Kara's challenge. It's a good one, and as always, be bold and have a sparkly day. Bye-bye.